Let me guess. Despite the form of Kai Havertz and how he started the season, you still believe Arsenal could upgrade on the striker position. You don't believe Gabriel Jesus is a bad player, but you simultaneously don't believe he can be the man to lead the front line for Arsenal on a consistent basis. Equally, you're a big fan of Trossard and his versatility, but you don't expect him to play as a number 9 on a regular basis. So why not sign a super sub better than Trossard? Or a bit of a lie there, people. Why not sign Jhon Duran? Could you argue he is the impact forward Arsenal need? Now, as you know, people, he is doing this thing at Aston Villa. He recently scored against Young Boys in the Champions League for them. He scored a fantastic goal against Everton and arguably an early goal of the season contender. Arsenal need players. You know, you could argue that if Arsenal don't need a level raiser of a player to lead the line, people, could you argue you could deal with a rotationary option that could come in, score a decent amount of goals, turn some of our alleged defeats into draws, some of those draws into 3 points or victory, ultimately more points on the board, and gets us more points in this pursuit of this Premier League trophy, people. For me, you look at him, he's a very exciting player. I love his mentality. I think he's got a good left foot. I think his link-up play could be polished, but I think he's a decent player, people. You know, in my opinion. Allegedly 40 clubs tried to sign him in the summer, says the sporting director of Aston Villa. And as we know, Chelsea tried to add him to their roster of 1 million players. You could argue he's one of the most current discussed backup strikers in the Premier League. In the Premier League, he's got 3 goals in 4 games, including that very screamer I just alleged to against Everton, people. It's also a side note, but according to the BBC, people, the percentage of goals from outside the box has fallen from 22.3% in the 06-07 season to 12.4% last term. Now, you've got someone that goes against the grain in that regards and has a fantastic strike from long range. Again, people, his unforgettable goal will live long in the memory of Aston Villa and football fans, people, and it will do its own way to boost that particular statistic that I just alluded to. You know, you saw when he wheeled off in celebrations, you saw Emi Martinez jaw drop, you saw Telemans in a positive way look in disbelief. Pickford simply just shook his head as he looked on the replay. You won't concede many a goal like that, people. The home support in attendance were astounded, and I'm sure the away Everton fans, sometimes you just have to sit back and applaud a fantastic bit of play, which was that, people. Now, if you look at Emi Martinez, who has worked with a number of top level players for club and country at Aston Villa, Arsenal, and obviously Argentina, he said he could become one of the best forwards in the world, people, which is high praise for someone that's worked with Messi. Surely he's banging on the door for more starts under Unai Emery, and even Unai Emery alleged to say they need to find a way to play with 2 strikers. Now, when you've got Ollie Watkins in top form and when you've got Duran, they've got 2 of the best striking options in the Premier League, people. You could argue they've got better striking options on paper than Arsenal. The only one they don't have better than is City, because obviously they've got Haaland over there, people. On the face of it, 10 goals from 53 games in total for Aston Villa, 39 Premier League appearances and 8 goals really and truly is nothing to shout about. But the 20-year-old stocks will rise and he'll continue to grow, people. You can see going back to his days in his homeland and in the MLS, Manchester United actually tried to sign him. For me, I believe his stocks will continue to rise. Duran has a combination of pace, power, and raw talent, which suggests he could become a key figure for a club, people, starting with Aston Villa in their attacking setup. Now, it's a tough task getting ahead of Ollie Watkins, but he's making a serious impact in the moments available to him, and he almost even could have signed for West Ham. We know for certain that he's eager for opportunities for more playing time. We also know Ollie Watkins is leading the line, and once again, you know, Aston Villa's head decision makers have said over 40 clubs were interested in him. AC Milan, Chelsea, and West Ham, to say the least. At the time, it was alleged that his price tag was 40 million for someone that's 20 years of age. Surely that is only going to rise. You could consider him, in my opinion, one of Colombia's brightest young talents. I think he's got the physical attributes. You marry that with developing technical abilities and his mentality, and it makes him a player to watch. And under Unai Emery, who has developed talents, even though he's not widely known for that, Duran has the potential to establish himself as a regular for club and country in the coming years. He stands at 6'1", so he's clearly an imposing striker physically. He's got great athleticism and strength. He's got very good hold-up play. He looks to bring his teammates into play. He's very good in the transition. He's got good movement and pace despite his size. He's also fairly quick and agile, and he's got an ability to run with aggression in behind defenses and create space. You marry that with, for me, he wants to be a difference maker, and he's got the raw tools to be a fantastic player. Naturally, there'd be a problem if you was that tall and you couldn't be good in the air, but you know, I think he's very good at aerial battles. I think he's very good at protecting the ball with his body. I think he's got a decent amount of pace, so he can make runs off the defender and also, you know, runs that benefit his teammates. And I think he's shown that he can score goals, which you want from a striker, but you could also impact the game without scoring. I don't think his technical level and his technical skills are quite as developed as he is off the ball and physically, but that's not to say he lacks skill. He's got a decent amount. It's just about polishing up people. He's still developing a variety range of finishing. You know, his time in the MLS and early matches in Aston Villa shows he's got the potential to become a prolific goal scorer, even though in the MLS his statistics show there's nothing to really shout about. He likes to shoot at every opportunity he gets, can play with his back to goal, able to sniff out a goal in any situation, drops deep into midfields and draws defenders with him in order to create space for his teammates as suggested, people. And he's a very good option from dead ball and set piece scenario. So this means he's quite decent. Going back quickly, people, I think he's got a really growth mindset. He always wants to improve. I'd implore you to go and watch some videos. You know, you look at his time at Chicago Fire in the MLS, you could say he flattered to deceive. Collectively, they finished 12th in the Eastern Conference, 9 points off the playoffs. They had a run of 2 wins in their opening 12 matches, you know, curtailing any hopes of making the playoffs, despite at the time bringing in Shaqiri. Nevertheless, when you look at it from a selfish, personal point of view for Duran, he enjoyed a somewhat breakout season, people, when they signed him in January of 2021. With his contract in Chicago starting 12 months later. He wasn't a regular starter under their then manager in the 2022 season. Duran didn't allow a consistent lack of game time on the pitch to impact his performances. He ended the campaign, with all of these things said, with 8 goals. Only 2 players aged 21 and under at the time could better that return. He had a goal every 170.4 minutes, which is actually better than someone like Carlos Vela at the time, who was a household name in the MLS, people. Now, while I think it is ultimately very unlikely that Aston Villa want to get rid of him, that Unai Emery would necessarily want to sanction a sale to Arsenal, his cost is rising, and he's not guaranteed to be a starter at Aston Villa at this moment, and likewise at Arsenal with Kai Havertz and many other options. Not to mention, once again, the asking price. But I think he's young, he's impressionable. It ties into our recruitment drive. He's nowhere near the finished article, and despite all of that, you know, he's shown that he's only scratched the surface of his ability. He's someone that is hungry for first team football. He weren't afforded that in his time at MLS. He weren't afforded that at Aston Villa. He might not want to do that at Arsenal. So it's a case that we're going to have to watch closely. But he's someone I'm excited about his potential as a neutral fan, keen to see if he's able to maintain his impactful performances, and ultimately one that I'm sure fellow Arsenal fans will be speaking about. Could he be one to take a chance on? Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. God bless you all. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.